Welcome to Transnational Competition Law course, and dear learner and viewers, today I am going to continue the discussion on the extraterritorial application of competition remedies in European Union. In the previous lecture, as a way of introduction and overview, what we tried to dwell on the aspect is the fact that the antitrust rules in the European Union or the competition rule in the European Union dates back to 1957, and it has completed almost 75 years of a history. And we have seen that how Article 85 and 86 of the European Economic Community and its later incarnation of Article 101 and 102 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union 2010 had led to the restrictive agreement decisions and a kind of a concerted practice regarding to prohibition of the abuse of dominance. We have also referred to the European Council's regulation of 1962 on the application of Article 85 and 86 of the European Community Treaty, and the last 50 years of the working of the European Council's regulation of 1962, we concluded to the point that it has directly applied all kind of a provision under Article 85, subclause 1, and we see that it has been very successful in carving out a very centralized authorization system for all respective agreement and have created a kind of a parallel national competition authority, national courts, and European Commission's decisions on the embarrassment, enforcement, and especially advancement of the competition remedies. We have taken a very cursory overview of the laws which is pertaining to the European Commission's Notice on Remedies 2004. We also looked at the European Commission's regulation of 2008. Alongside, we referred to, in a peripheral manner, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development Competition Remedies of 2011. Vis-a-vis, we also tried to refer and hint about the United States Antitrust Remedies Manual of 2022. And we directly scaled down to the fact that as to how the European Council's regulation, especially the 2003 regulation, have been very successful through the instrumentality of Article 7 of the European Council regulation. In that respect, it becomes important for us now to look at as what are the features of Article 7, 1 of the European Commission regulation of 2003, which was not covered in the previous lectures. So thereby, dear learner and viewer, I am going to further explicate the mandate of Article 7.1, as we have noticed in the previous lecture that it tries to preface that as to how the competition remedies are going to be enforced in the European Union, and in a very concise and a very brief and an accurate sense, Article 7 of the European Council Regulation 2003 talks about the behavioral and as well as the structural remedies. It also talks about the doctrine of proportionality. It also tries to see that the infringement and the remedies should have to be struck in a balanced manner and it should not be disproportionate. Now we'll be looking into the features of Article 7.1 of the European Commission regulation, because this article happens to be the heart and soul in matters of advancing competition remedies in European Union. With this, dear learner and viewer, what we see that Article 7.1 of the European Council Regulation 2003 empowers European Commission to impose any kind of the remedies, meaning thereby either it can be the structural remedies, either it can be the behavioral remedies, and both the remedies are to be advanced in a proportionate manner to the actual infringement of the competition laws and rules. And it is here necessary to see that how effectively Article 7 of the European Council Regulation 2003 has all potentiality to deal effectively any kind of market aberrations, infringement, mutilation, and any kind of a distortion into the market. And thereby, in this sense, we have to refer that in adopting what has been said under Article 7 of the European Council regulation, when it was allowed to be operated, then we require a very detailed kind of the structure, and those structure mostly belonging to what we can call is the procedural dimensions, that how we can thrash out the structural remedies, how we can implement the behavioral remedies, how diligently we can strike a balance and the proportionality in matters of the infringement and in the remedial packages of the competition remedies. That has to be seen in through the practices, and that has to be found in what we can say that in adopting those remedies, that European Council Regulation 2003, where the Commission is constrained by their aims and objective, and we have to see that the functional ambit of the European Commission in matters of advancement of the competition remedies. In that respect, what we see that we have to refer to section 2A, because section 2A of the European Council Regulation 2003 precisely deals on the aspect of the power, the functions, and as well as the limitations of the European Commission in matters of advancing and adopting competition remedies. So, Article 7.1 is something kind of an umbrella provision. It is a kind of a general provision, but how that provision requires is effective implementations are depending on many other provisions, and those provisions are going to be discussed and to be taken into consideration for our understanding of the competition remedies in European Union. So in this respect, we have to see that the entire functionality, the operative part of the European Commission as contained under section 2A, and then we have to see as to what are the requirement of the effective proportionality, as has been said earlier, that there must be a kind of a reasonable nexus between the competition remedies and and the proportionality, and the proportionality and the competition remedies, or proportionality and the magnitude of the infringement should must be in due proportion, and unless and until it happens to be in due proportion, the effectiveness of the competition remedies will always be in question. So once we talk of the efficacy of the competition remedies, we have to see the proportionality and the remedial link or linkages between the remedy and the proportionality. And for that end, we see that section 2B happens to be a kind of a reading reckoner on that aspect, which devotes itself to the entire requirement of the effectiveness, requirement of proportionality, requirements of advancement of remedies, the kinds of remedies, and the entire interrelationship. For that, we have to refer beside Article 7.1 of the European Council Regulation 2003, we have to look at Section 2b. A perusal of Section 2a and Section 2b, a combined perusal of these two sections, leads us that the legal framework leaves substantial room for creativity, meaning thereby there is no one template of the competition remedies either under Article 7, subclause 1 of the European Council Regulation 2003 or Section 2A or Section 2B. Nonetheless, we can say with great confidence that it talks about the structural remedies, it talks about the behavioral remedies, it talks about the doctrine of proportionality, it confers wide power on the European Commission to look at and dispense the competition remedies. It also talks about to have an effective establishment of the linkages between the remedies and the infringement and the proportionality. Nonetheless, we find that whatever provision has been contained under the European Council Commission's regulation of 2003, there is always a kind of the scope for the creativity, and there is a substantial room for the creativity, and that is the beauty of this law. Meaning thereby, in other words, we can say that the Article 7, subclause 1 of the European Commission Regulation 2003, Section 2A of the regulation and Section 2B of the regulations are illustrative in nature, not exhaustive in nature. And it can't be exhaustive in the nature because if there has been a constant innovation and there has been invention of the new kinds of the competition remedies, that should also be easily fit into the European Commission Regulation 2003, and the scope for creativity is wide open. Now, we can say that what has been contained under Article 7.1 and Section 2A and 2B, we should actually be very careful that what are the difficulties, and from that point of view, how European Commission Regulation 2003 have rightly envisioned that in matters of advancement of competition remedies, despite its precision and accuracy, there happens to be some practical difficulties when we design, when we monitor, and we try to advance the competition remedies. All these questions have been squarely answered under Section 3A of the European Commission's Regulation 2003. And that is something very important to note, and that is something very appreciable also, that this law, how it happens to be on the side of the alert to see the practical and how this law is endeavoring to have some kind of very pragmatic approach to the competition remedies. Section 3A answer to that question and at least addresses that question. Now, dear learner and viewer, we have been always talking of the enforcement of the competition remedies, but we always try to see that whether it is structural remedies or the behavioral remedies or fit it first approach, maybe that all these remedies will be very effective in matters of curbing any kind of a market distortion and aberration and infringement, but it may not be very effective in matters of digital market. And those issues of information asymmetries and the choice of the platform and many other problems which are being discerned and experienced by the implementation of the competition remedies has well taken into consideration in the previous lecture. For to that end, what we see that European Commission Regulation 2003 happens to be very conscious of the fact that as to how we can have a kind of a separate mechanism and a separate treatment or a separate strategy to look at the issue of advancement of the competition remedies in digital market. With this, I think that what we discussed in the last lecture about the functional ambit of Article 7 of the European Council Regulation 2003 and the perusal of Section Article 7.1 and Section 2A, 2B, 3A, and 3B taken as a whole gives a very clear picture about the place of the competition remedies and the working of the competition remedies. Now, dear learner, I will turn into what the first specific law which has been discussed in the previous lecture about the European Commission Notice on Remedies 2004, and that is something a very specific law on the point, so it needs and it deserves our careful attention, and it becomes incumbent on us to look at the provisions of the European Commission Notice on Remedies 2004. A perusal of the European Commission Notice on Remedies 2004 on the control of concentration between the undertaking, meaning thereby we are specifically referring to Article 6 of the European Commission's Notice on Remedies 2004, which have one set of the laws which is very specific to deal in matters of the competition remedies, and that a specific law happens to be the merger regulations, and that has been addressed under Article 6, subclause 2. And then we find that the Article 8, subclause 2, which expressly provide that the Commission may decide and declare concentration compatible with common market. Here, your attention is drawn, my dear learner and viewer, that a different word we are coming into, we encounter a word concentration. Here, in the jargon of the European Commission Notice on Remedies, the concentration is an equivalent to the remedies, or and this European Commission Notice on Remedies 2004 uh, prefer to opt a different word and a different coinage, and that is a concentration. So Article 8, subclause 2 of the European Commission Notice on Remedies 2004 expressly provides that the European Commission may decide to declare a concentration, or you can say the remedies, compatible with the common market. So here we can have a feel about the sensitivities of the European Union in giving effect to the extraterritorial application of the competition remedies, because once it talks about the compatibility, when it talks about the uniformity, when it talks about kind of a system which should be monistic in character, and that is to be applied at a European single market of 27 member countries. So Article 8, subclause 2, what it expressly try to enunciate that the European Commission can decide and declare a concentration. compatible with the common market. Again, I will just refer back what we have discussed earlier and what we discussed earlier after the perusal of Article 7.1 of the European Commission Regulation 2003, Section 2A, Section 2B, Section 3A, Section 3B, and what we inference we have drawn is the fact that the Article 7.1 as a whole and its concomitant and analogous provisions on competition remedies happens to be illustrative in character, not exhaustive in character, and we maintained that there is a substantial room of creativity. It is this point that substantial room for creativity we can see that how Article 8, subclause 2 of the European Commission Notice on Remedies 2004 talks about that the European Commission can declare a concentration compatible with the common market following modification of the parties both before and after the initiation of the proceeding is nothing but the substantial room for the creativity in the domain of advancing competition remedies in European jurisdiction. Thus, we see that the Commission may attach its decisions, conditions, obligations which are intended to ensure that the undertaking concerned comply with the commitments and rendering the concentration compatible with the common market. So the emphasis on the common market has been repeatedly mentioned. Either it is Article 6 subclause 2 or Article 8 subclause 2. Both have a direct bearing on the nature, concept, ambit, and scope of the competition remedies. Here we see that European Commission's Notice on Remedies 2004 primarily tries to give a kind of a guidance on the modification to the concentration, meaning thereby that the one size does not fit all. So at the same time, it provides a skeleton approach to advancement of the competition remedies. At the same time, it tries to have some kind of an innovations into the concentrations and what such modifications are commonly described as remedies or concentration. What we see that this the European Commission in that respect happens to be the European Commission's Notice on Remedies 2004 happens to eliminate all competition concerns which are identified by the European Commission, and be that in the name of modification, be that in the name of concentration, it is directly hitting to the very scope of the competition remedies, and that's why we see that ever since that there has been the merger regulation implementation by European Commission's Notice on Remedies 2004, we find that the Commission's happens to be very successful, and Commission which have revised primarily its earlier Notice on Remedies, which dates back to 2001, have entailed that the merger regulation, especially there are two segments of it of this notification. European Commission Notice on Remedies 2004 has two sets of the competition remedies. One precisely relates to the merger regulation, and another precisely relates to the implementation regulations. And when we see that European Commission's Notice on Remedies 2004, we should very carefully and separately read the ambit and scope of the merger regulation 2004 and implementation regulation 2004, and then we see that how these two different sets of the competition remedies which has been envisioned and as well as it has been envisaged by the European Commission, has been working very well in the European Court of Justice and the Court of First Instance, how they have drawn a kind of a conclusion about these provision is the fact that there is a systemic ex post review of the entire jurisprudence of the competition remedies, and then the European Court of Justice, and as well as the Court of First Instance in Europe has put their seal of approval that the European Commission's notice on remedies 2004 in the name of the merger regulation or implementation regulation have thoroughly tried to see a systemic reform, and it has done an ex post facto review, and the past remedies which were prevalent now in the purview of the European Commission's notice on remedies 2004, has been a drastic improvement in advancement of the competition remedies, not only at the statutory level, but at the executive level and as well as at the judicial level. With this, I will conclude and say that it is very important to look at Article 7.1 of the European Commission Regulation 2003. Alongside, we should also be taking note of the European Commission notice on remedies to draw a kind of a perspective in relation to the merger regulations and implementation regulation, and always try to have some kind of a creative approach in the advancement of competition remedies in European Union. With this, I conclude and I wish a happy learning.